check that out. But we wanted to bring in a couple more hosts tonight to get their takes on the big game.
All right, so this is fun. So earlier this year, our parent company acquired the nation's leading podcast network for local sports. Locked On Podcast produces daily shows of every team for the 4 major pro sports leagues, and it also covers 30 college sports programs, too.
It's a pretty big deal. David Harrison hosts the Locked On Bucs podcast. Ryan Tracy hosts Locked On Chiefs. What better folks to talk about the matchup at Raymond James Stadium than by getting both sides? So, David, let's start with you. Did you think the Bucs would actually be the first team ever to play in their own home Super Bowl?
I think throughout the season it was obviously kind of touch and go and up and down, and there were moments you believed in it more than other moments, and I don't think I ever personally got to the point where I said, oh, there's just no chance it's going to happen. And I mean, it's something that we've told our audience, and especially some of the Bucs fans that kind of tend to hit the panic button a little bit faster than most people probably should after what they've been through being fans of the franchise, is that all you got to do is make it to the tournament. And once you make it to the tournament, you've got a pretty strong defense, you've got a stacked offense, and you've got Tom Brady and Bruce Arians leading the whole charge for you. So, I mean, once you get to the tournament, there's no reason to think that this team couldn't make it to Super Bowl 55, and obviously they proved me right, so I appreciate them for doing that, and here we are.
Well, that definitely helps when you have the two of them. Now,
Yeah.
Ryan, same thing. What do you think about it?
It was pretty evident right from about 3 days after their Super Bowl victory last year that they were pretty focused on getting back there. The front office made a lot of moves early to make sure that they could bring back as much of their roster as they possibly could. They ended up with quite a bit of it. So I always felt it was a possibility, but you never know. Anytime, especially when your quarterback gets hurt, it throws a little doubt into your mind. But they made it, they persevered, and now I think this is going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, and guys, it would be the first time since Tom Brady's Patriots if Mahomes and the Chiefs are able to go back-to-back and do that. Final question for you guys. All right, I'll start with you, David. What are you watching for in Super Bowl 55 coming up on this Sunday? What's your prediction for the game?
What I'm watching for is got to start in the trenches, and especially on the defensive side for the Buccaneers, they've got to win against an offensive line that isn't at 100%. They've got some talent along the offensive line, sure, and I know they've done a good job of kind of rotating people in and out during practices to make sure they kind of safeguarded from a situation like this, and I appreciate that preparation. But when you have a defensive front like they have in Tampa, especially with guys like JPP and Shaquille Barrett coming off the edge, you've got to get Holmes, you've got to cause problems for Patrick Mahomes. And I look at this game as potentially a high-scoring affair. I've gone all season saying that the first team to 30 is going to win, and so far, at least in Buccaneers matchups, I've been correct in saying so. I think when you're talking Pat Mahomes and Tom Brady, you got to up the ante a little bit. So I'm saying first team to 40 wins, and I've got the Buccaneers winning 42-38.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
And that's something for
It's a
me to look
high-scoring
for.
game.
Yeah,
Right.
I was expecting
A little
low
higher
scoring,
than
not
most
that
people are
really-
expecting, yeah.
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 Ryan, I'm
gonna be
curious
fun.
from the Chiefs' perspective, you think this is going to be a high-scoring game too?
I tend to agree, at least not quite as much as David, but I do think that they both stick in there together back and forth to the point where they're both over 30. That's my expectation. And I think that really it comes down to the trench warfare starts it, but Patrick Mahomes has a unique ability to get away from that. And so for me, I think the matchups to watch are in both secondaries against two very different wide receiver groups, but ones that can both put up a lot of points. And I do expect it to come down at the end of the whole thing to who gets more turnovers. I think that rather than Patrick versus Tom, I do think the emphasis is Tyron versus Tom and Patrick versus Todd Bowles. And I think that's what's going to come down to. At the end of the day, I think a slugfest ensues, not quite as much as David. I'll call it 34-31, but for the Kansas City Chiefs to repeat.
Leads the postseason for the NFL in turnovers. So if we're talking turnover game, Bucs defense has been pretty good at it. We'll see what the Chiefs do as well. So that's David Harrison and Ryan Tracy. Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You can find their podcasts and more local sports coverage at LockedOnPodcast.com. And, of course, you can download the Tampa Bay 55 podcast. We're here all week from the Riverwalk, taking you behind the scenes and giving you all the access you need for the big game.
Man, you guys are talking about a really exciting game. I love this little chat that we had here. So Ryan and I will be back with you at 11 o'clock from our beautiful set here along the Riverwalk. Now, in the meantime, catch up on everything Super Bowl related on our free 10 Tampa Bay app. We've got a countdown clock to Super Bowl 55. That is this Sunday on 10 Tampa Bay.
See you guys. David, Ryan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.